Hello and welcome students. I am SN Oja, PGT Bio, KV number 1 Riva. Friends, in the last topic, we have discussed about sexual reproduction in flowering plants. Actually, we are dealing with the second chapter of your NCERT of Unit 1, that is sexual reproduction in flowering plants. So, in the previous topic, we have studied various introduction of sexual reproduction, what are the sexual reproducing parts which are present in the flower, and how these parts are responsible for performing the sexual reproduction. Moreover, in the previous topic, we have also discussed about pre-fertilization, some specific pre-fertilization stages. I know it is a little bit more gap. So before starting today's topic, let us in a very fast way recap that what we have studied in the previous topics. So in the previous topic, we have studied about the sexual reproduction, and the same slide you have seen at that time also. The sexual reproduction in the plants includes 3 steps, that is pre-fertilization, that is double fertilization stage, and that is post-fertilization stage. At that time, we were purely discussing about the pre-fertilization stages. In pre-fertilization stage, again we have studied about 4 important concepts. We have included 4 important concepts. That is pollen grain formation, also called as microsporogenesis. That is embryo sac formation, pollination, and last one is pollen pistil interaction. So in the first video lecture, we have completed pollen grain formation. This portion we have already completed, in which a diploid pollen mother cell undergoes reductional division to form a haploid gamete, and that gamete later on modified to convert into the pollen grain. So that is what is called as pollen grain formation. Now for today, we are going to study 2 important concepts from the pre-fertilization stage only. The first one is embryo sac formation, and second one is pollination. If time permits, then we will go for pollen pistil interaction also. Otherwise, we will cover this part in next lecture. So let us start with today's first topic, that is embryo sac formation. Just before the embryo sac formation or megasporogenesis is exactly same what we have studied about the microsporogenesis. In microsporogenesis, we have studied that there is a pollen mother cell which undergoes a reductional division. That reduction division leads to form microspores, and these microspores later on modify to form the pollen grain. There we have studied about the structure of microsporangia, the structure of male gametophyte, that is pollen grain. So these are the steps. We have studied about the structure of stamen. We have studied about the structure of microsporangium. We have studied about the structure of microsporogenesis, and at last we have also studied about the structure of male gametophyte. Now today's topic is little bit similar to our previous topic. As previously we have studied about the structure of stamen. So here we will discuss about the structure of pistil. Pistil, also called as a carpel, and this carpel is basically diagnosed as the female reproductive part. The complete carpel is also called as gynoecium. Now after that we will study about megasporogenesis. Megasporangium. The structure of megasporangium. Megasporangium means ovule, Remember, there we have studied about the structure of microsporangium, and here we will study about the structure of megasporangium. The third one is megasporogenesis, that how the process of megasporogenesis takes place. And the fourth one is structure of embryo sac, that what is the complete structure of embryo sac. So in the embryo sac formation, these are the four important topics, which is exactly same as in the microsporogenesis what we have studied. And now we will continue with this topic. So let us begin with our first topic. Well, the female reproductive part, also called as a pistil. As I told you, a pistil is also termed as, a complete pistil is also termed as carpel. And carpel has various segments, so biologically it is more important to term it as a gynoecium. Because gynoecium include all the female reproductive part. So in the flower, the pistil, carpel or female reproductive part includes three important things. The first one, a top flattened structure. You all must have seen, you have studied in class 10th also, roughly something like this structure. So this flattened structure, it is called as stigma. This stigma is flat in the structure and it is responsible for resting of pollen grain. During pollination, whenever the pollen grain of a species transfer from one plant from anther to stigma. Okay, so definition of pollen grain also we are including like that only, that is transfer of pollen grain from anther to stigma, that is called as a pollination. And the stigma play a very important role for checking the, here also you can see, the stigma play a very important role for checking the compatibility of the gamete. Now what do you mean by compatibility, that we have already discussed. Take an example, again let me explain here. For example, on this stigma, if there are two pollen grain, suppose this is pollen grain 1 and suppose this is pollen grain 2. From pollen grain 1 and 2, suppose pollen grain 1 belongs to the same species. Then this pollen grain 1 undergoes a pollen tube formation. It will develop into a pollen tube. And pollen grain 2 does not belong to the same species, so this pollen grain does not form any type of pollen tube. It does not form any type of pollen tube. So that is called as a pollen pistil interaction, and that is also called as a compatibility check of a gamete. So that is the function of the stigma. So stigma perform basically two important functions. First, it is the resting, it provides the resting of pollen grain, and second, it checks the compatibility of a gamete. The second important structure in pistil is the long stalk-like structure you have seen from here to here, and that is from here to here, as you can see, a thin long filament, and that is called as style. Here also, from here to here. This style is a very thin filament, and it is acting as a path for the pollen tube extension. Moreover, this style connects stigma to ovary, because the last swelling part is ovary. The third part of pistil is called as ovary. So ovary supports over a resting state, that is called as a thalamus. As in this diagram, it is the female reproductive part of gynoecium of a hibiscus. So by taking this example, you can see that ovary, this is the ovary, a small part, that is called as an ovary, and this ovary rests over a flattened structure, and that flattened structure is called as thalamus. So on thalamus the ovary rests. So this ovary is the last and swollen part. This ovary has various locules, as in this diagram it is much more clear. It has multiple or various locules, and these locules contain ovules. Okay, so that is how the tree structure, or a common tree structure of gynoecium, can be explained. So again I am recapping it. It includes three things: stigma, flattened structure; style, a filamentous structure; and at last part it is the ovary. ovary. Okay. Now, gynoecium or ovary on the basis of whether the ovules are whether the carpels a gynoecium may have a single carpel or it may have many carpels. If any gynoecium has only one carpel, it is called as monocarpellary. That is only one carpel. And if any gynoecium has more than two carpels, two or more than two carpels, it is termed as multicarpellary. Multi means many, carpellary means carpa. Okay. Now, if a plant species has many carpels, then again two conditions arises. That is, either all the carpels are fused together or all the carpels remains free. If all the carpels are fused together, this condition is called as syncarpus. Here, a gynoecium has many carpels and these carpels fuse together. That is called as syncarpus. Another one is apocarpus. When a gynoecium has many carpels and these carpels are free from each other, it is not fused, and hence it is called as apocarpus. Let us discuss a little bit more about syncarpus and apocarpus. In this condition, again I have shown two conditions of syncarpus and apocarpus. Syncarpus, as I told, if a ovary has more than one carpel and all the carpels are fused together. For example, in papaya also you have seen in the very good example of your NCERT which is given, that is Papaver somniferum. Okay, so if you talk about the pistil of Papaver somniferum, this is the thalamus, and from here to here it is the ovary. Sorry. From here to here, this is the ovary, and this upper part is termed as stigma. So, in Papaver somniferum, the upper part, this part is called as a stigma, and ovary, as you can see, here only there is, externally it appears as a one ovary. But if you talk internally it has various segments, various ovules, and these ovules are not, carpels are not separated from each other, and that's why they are fused together, and that's why this condition is called as syncarpus. Another one is apocarpus. Another example of mycelia, again this diagram is taken from your NCERT book only. This mycelia, if we talk about, here also you can see the various leaf-like structures. These are separate leaf-like structures. These separate leaf-like structures are the separate carpels. They are the different carpels. So here also a ovary has many carpels. It is polycarpellary or multicarpellary. But here the carpels are separated from each other. They are not fused. And that condition is called as apocarpus. Students, in last session, CBSE has done some changes in the question paper pattern of class 12th. I think you all aware about that. If you remember, in 3-mark question, there are 3 questions which are either flowchart based or diagram based. So these all diagrams are very important for your board examination. Whenever you are going through any diagram of NCERT, go very thoroughly. It is very important, because the same question can be drafted. I will give this diagram and I will ask, what is this? Instead of writing here carpel, suppose this carpel has been removed. Here something written A. Now identify the part A. What condition is this? what is the example, write an example of this condition. So all such type of 1 mark question can be drafted by CBSE, and that's why we have to be very careful whenever we are dealing with the diagram. Go for each and every part of the diagram which is mentioned in your NCERT book. Okay. So these are the two conditions, syncarpus and apocarpus. Again, let me repeat. Syncarpus, where many carpels are there and that carpels are fused together. Example is pistil of papaver. And apocarpus, if many carpels are there, multicarpellary condition, but all the carpels remain free from each other, that is called as apocarpus condition, and the example is mycelium. Now, next, one is a very important structure regarding the structure of the ovary. Ovary, if you talk about from top to bottom, ovary is the third part. First is the stigma, then followed by style, and then last one is ovary. Ovary is the last part of pistil which rests over a thalamus, a flattened structure, and this structure has various complex organs or organ systems. So here we have to be very clear about the structure, about the diagram, about the structure, and about the function of all the parts of megasporangium. Now let's have a look about the structure of megasporangium. Megasporangium, in simple form, it is also termed as ovary. Talking about ovary is connected to the main stalk. From the main stalk, a ovary is connected by a long filamentous structure, and that long filamentous structure, as you can see here, okay, this part, and this part is called as funicle. So funicle is a long, it is the stalk. This stalk will go something like this. This whole structure is the ovary, and this ovary comes to the main part through the funicle. These funicles are basically vascular in nature. They contain xylem and phloem. It has xylem and phloem. And due to the presence of these conductive tissues, the funicle is performing the role of conduction. During the growth and development of megasporangium, the funicle act as a conductive tissue and provide all the nutritive components which is required by the ovary for its development. The point where the funicle connects to the megasporangium or funicle connects to the ovary, for example, as you can see this point. This point where the funicle, this is the funicle, and this funicle connect to the ovary. This is called as hilum. So hilum is acting as a connecting point which connects the funicle to the ovary. The third important structure, most of the part of this ovary is composed of nutritive tissues which provide nutrition for the growth and development of embryocyte, and these nutritive tissues are termed as nucellus. So nucellus are forming the major part. As you can see, these all parts are there. So nucellus is forming a major part, and this provides nourishment or nutrition. This nucellus is covered by protective covering. These protective coverings are called as integuments. These protective coverings are called as integuments. Now, ovary on the basis of integuments can further be classified into various parameters. Now, if we talk about the ovary, it is classified as unitemic, bitegmic, tritegmic, and last one is tetrategmic. No, that is ategmic. Ategmic. Unitegmic. Uni means one. So if a nucellus is covered by only one integument, it is called as unitegmic. Bitegmic. If the nucellus is covered by two integuments, it is called as bitegmic. Tritegmic. If it is covered by three integuments, it is called as tritegmic. And ategmic. This is the property of parasitic plants. Okay, in parasitic plants, the integuments are completely absent. Okay, so in this condition, if the integument is completely absent, it is called as ategmic. That is, the integument is completely absent. So on the basis of the integuments, ovary can be unitegmic, bitegmic, tritegmic, or ategmic. All the four categories are there. Okay. So we were discussing about the integuments. So here, as you can see, the outer integument, this is the nucellus, and this is the outer integument. This outer integument followed by the inner integument. Okay, this is the outer layer, hence termed as outer integument, and this is the inner layer, hence termed as inner integument. The outer and inner integument protect it. They basically provide the role for the protection. They protect the nucellus, that is the nutritive cells, which encircles the embryo sac in the center. So in the center of that, you can see this is the embryo sac, where all the event of megasporogenesis has to take place. One more thing, the part of ovary from where this integument originates, the part of ovary from where the integument originates is called as chalaza. From chalaza only the integument originates, and it goes up to the opposite part. So here also this integument originates from chalaza. So the part of ovary from where the integument originates, that is called as a chalaza, and that end or that pole is called as a chalazal pole. Just opposite to this chalazal pole, there is a small opening, as you can see here, and this small opening is called as micropyle. Micro, very small, pyle, opening, micropyle. Okay, it is a small opening which is present just opposite to the chalazal pole. And these two, micropylar pole and chalazal pole, defines the polarity of the ovary. They are very important. We will, when we discuss about the fertilization, in most of the cases, the pollen tube enters into the embryo sac through micropylar pole. And in few cases also we will study that the fertilization takes place through chalazal pole also. But in most of the cases it is micropylar pole. So that's why this micropylar pole and chalazal pole, they both are playing a very important role for defining the polarity. One more thing, let me tell you. Ovule, that is the egg, only present at micropylar end, only present at micropylar pole. So egg apparatus, the location of egg apparatus is always toward the micropylar pole. So if, for example, if I have given you a embryo sac diagram, and if I tell you that locate where are the other cells or egg apparatus, so egg apparatus is present here. Okay, this is the another segment, that is antipodal cell, and then other polarity would be defined. Right. So this is basically a complete structure and a diagram of an anatropous ovary. Anatropous means inverted. Approximately 82% 82% of angiosperms possess the anatropous ovary, and that's why in your NCERT or it is discussed about the anatropous ovary. Okay, anatropous means inverted, opposite, ulta. Okay. Well, now in after that, the second important part is megasporogenesis. Megasporogenesis, it is a process of formation of haploid female gamete, that is ovule, from diploid megaspore mother cell. It is just the same as we have studied about microsporogenesis. In microsporogenesis, we have studied about PMC, that is polar mother cell. This polar mother cell undergoes reductional division. It undergoes reductional division, meiosis, and after meiosis it forms a stage of tetrad. These tetrad stages are called as a microsphere, and these all microspores, and these all microspores later on undergoes differentiation, and after differentiation they form the polar grain. So polar mother cell, it was diploid. Microspores, it is haploid, and polar grains are again haploid. This we have studied in the microsporogenesis. Same way is the megasporogenesis. Megasporogenesis in angiosperms, it is also termed as monosporic megasporogenesis. Monosporic. Why termed as a monosporic? Mono means single. And why it is termed as monosporogenesis? Let us see. So, in the first step, as in the microsporogenesis, there was a polar mother cell. Here, megaspore mother cell was there. This megaspore mother cell, it is diploid in the nature. This megaspore mother cell is surrounded by various nutritive cells, and these cells are called as nucellus. This nucellus provide nutrition to megaspore mother cell or other megaspores during the growth and development phases. This megaspore mother cell undergoes first reductional division, that is called as meiosis 1, and as a result of meiosis 1 it forms megaspore dyad. You can see here megaspore dyad, that is one cell divide to form two cells. Di means two, so hence it is called as megaspore dyad. This undergoes further meiosis 2, and this two cells further goes into four cells. They split into four cells, and it is called as megaspore tetrad. Tetra means four. Now the diploid mother cell converts to haploid, and here also four haploid megaspore tetrads. Now out of these four, three megaspores degenerates. Out of this four, three megaspores, these three, 1, 2 and 3 megaspores degenerates, and the further development of embryo sac takes place only through one cell, only through one megaspore, and hence this type of megaspore formation is called as monosporic. That is, the formation of embryo sac takes place only from one cell. Now, how it happens? So after this, this one cell undergoes free nuclear mitotic division. That means it undergoes karyokinesis, which is not followed by cytokinesis. Nucleus divides, but cytoplasm does not divide. That's why it is called as karyokinesis, which is not followed by cytokinesis. So, in a rapid way, it undergoes first mitotic division. As a result, the one nucleus is split into, here it was, we will see here, suppose this is the one spool, first spool. So this undergoes division, mitotic, simple mitotic division to form two spores. These two nucleus further undergoes division. This will divide into two, this will divide into two. So now completely 4 nucleuses are there. These two again divide into 4, and here this 2 again divide into 4 by simple mitotic division. So at this stage, this is called as 8 nucleated state. 8 nucleated stage. Since cytokinesis does not take place, so hence we cannot say it is 8 celled stage. It is 8 nucleated stage. Due to this 8 nucleated stage, now 8 nucleuses are present. Now, these 8 nucleus start migrating to their defined pole. Out of that, one nucleus will form egg, that is ovule. 2 nucleus will form synergid. 2 nucleus is present at the center, and this is called as central cell, and rest of the 3 nucleuses are forming antipodal, migrates to the antipodal end. Here again the polarity is very important. Okay, so as you can see, this process takes place at micropylar end, and this is the Chalazar end. At micropylar end, egg apparatus will form. At Chalazar end, antipodal cells will be there. So these polarities are very important. Whenever in the board examination, if suppose the same question has been asked, here polarity is very important. If you draw egg apparatus toward Chalazar end, again your answer will be wrong. The egg apparatus must be drawn toward the micropylar end. Okay, and after that, if we talk about a mature embryo sac, it is something like that. Now in this diagram, this is the diagram again taken from your NCERT. In this diagram, here the poles are inverted, opposite. So don't confuse. Okay, here it was actually micropylar end and Chalazar end was here. But here it is inverted. The Chalazar end will go here and micropylar end will come here. It is drawn like that. Okay, so no need to confusion. There should not be any confusion. It is simply drawn like that. Okay, so be careful. So toward Chalazar end, the 3 nucleus which migrates, it forms antipodal cell 1, 2, and 3. In the center, it will form a central cell, and the central cell has 2 nucleus 1 and 2. And toward the micropylar end, 3 cells are present. Out of the 3 cells, 2 are synergids and 1 is egg. Okay, now, so this is the process of megasporogenesis. Again, let me recap very fast. At first stage, megaspore mother cell undergoes reduction division to form 2 cell stage. These 2 cells are haploid and it is termed as megaspore dyad. This megaspore dyad again undergoes meiosis 2 to form megaspore tetrad. In megaspore tetrad, out of this 4 megaspore, 3 are degenerate and the whole embryo sac will develop from 1 cell. This 1 megaspore undergoes repetitive mitotic division. Repetitive mitotic division. As a result, it will form 8 nucleated stages. When 8 nucleated stages are formed, this 8 nuclei migrates toward their respective poles, and then this is the diagram for the embryo sac. Now, before proceeding further, let's have a little bit more discussion about the various components of embryo sac. Well, as we are talking about the embryo sac, or if you see about the structure of the mature embryo sac, it is the site for the double fertilization. We have already studied about this in class 10th also. Then the word double fertilization was not there, but I think the structure of megaspore, the structure of embryo sac was there. Okay, so let us discuss about the various components and their function. The first one, again I want to define you that there are two poles. That two poles are now Chalazal end or Chalazal pole, and lower pole is called as micropylar end or micropylar pole. The first one is egg apparatus. Egg apparatus. Egg apparatus includes two important things. There are two synergids and there is one egg or ovule. So at this end you can see there is one egg. This egg is the fertile unit or fertile gamete of angiospermic female reproductive part, which undergoes fertilization, and as a result of this fertilization it is responsible for formation of the new embryo. And this egg included two synergids. This is first synergid and this is second synergid. So there are two synergids which supports to the egg, and these three are collectively called as egg apparatus. This egg apparatus is present at micropylar end. Now, if you talk about the structure of synergid, here how can you define what is the definite structure of a synergid and how it is separated from the different part? So that we should study. There are two very defined structures which are present in synergids. The first one is synergids have elongated vacuoles, and these two circles you can see, these two circles are nothing but they are the vacuoles. These vacuoles are responsible for storage of nutrients and maintaining the tonicity. Okay. Another one, you can see here the finger-like projections. So if I draw it, it is something like this. So this is small structure. It is something like this. These small structures are called as filiform apparatus. Filiform apparatus. These filiform apparatus play multiple roles during the fertilization. The first important role is it is responsible for guiding pollen tube. Filiform apparatus secretes some. So filiform apparatus, it secretes some boron-related compound. Boron-related compound, and this boron-related compound is responsible for chemical attraction and formation of pollen tube. During the practical of pollen grain extension, we are using actually the boron components for the pollen grain formation. It is responsible for extension of pollen grain. So a pollen grain, a pollen tube formation is a type of a chemotaxic movement. That means it follows the concentration of chemicals. Which chemical? Boron. So that's why this filiform apparatus secretes boron, and this boron is responsible for guiding the formation of a pollen tube. Second very important part, after fertilization, this synergids forms some hausteria. Hausteria means finger-like projections, and these finger-like projections embedded into the cells of nucellus, and from there it is responsible for drawing the nutrition. So either from nucellus it draw the nutrition or from endosperm it draw the nutrition, but this synergids are playing very important role for absorbing the nutrient, and this nutrient are very important for the growth and development of a zygote after fertilization. Okay. Next one, the second important part is the polar cells, central cells. This central cells, if we will talk, the central cell has two nucleuses, as you can see, a very distinguished two important nucleuses, and hence it is termed as N plus N. N plus N. Don't term it as 2N. Don't apply mathematics. 2N, N plus N equal to 2N. No, wrong. It is N plus N. Why? Because both the nucleus are not fused together by the time. Both the nucleuses are separate. So, the genomic constitution N plus N. Okay. These central cells is the second part of double fertilization, and they are responsible for formation of endosperm. So, it forms endosperm. It forms endosperm. Now, this endosperm is very important for the growth and development of for providing the nutrition to the various components of the plant. The third important thing here is antipodal cells. Antipodal cells, there are three cells, as you can see here, and these antipodal cells are again responsible for drawing the nutrition after the fertilization is, once the fertilization is over. Okay, now, like this, if we discuss a typical angiospermic embryo sac is 8 nucleated and 7 cell structure. How? Let us discuss here. How many antipodal cells are there? 3 antipodal cells. How many central cells are there? 1 central cell. How many synergids are there? 2 synergid. And how many eggs is there? 1 egg. So if you talk about cell, 3 plus 1 4 plus 1 5 plus 2 7. So there are 7 cells, but it is 8 nucleated. Why? Because if we talk about nucleus now here, so antipodal cell 1 plus 1 plus 1, here there are 3 nucleus. If you talk about central cell, here there are 2 nucleus. For egg apparatus, 1 nucleus. For synergids, again 2 nucleus. So if you sum total all these things, 3 plus 2, 5, plus 1, 6, plus 2, 8. So if you talk, so if cells we have seen, it is 7 cell, and if you talk about nucleus, it is 8 nucleated. 8 nucleus. So a typical angiospermic flower is 7 cell and 8 nucleated structure. Okay, so that is all about the structure of an mega embryo cell. So at this end, we have studied 2 important things. The first one is microsporogenesis that we have discussed in our previous lecture, and in this lecture we have studied about the structure of megasporangium, embryo sac, and the different function of embryo sac. Now, in next video lecture, we will discuss about other topics which is left here, that is pollen grain formation, that is pollination, various modes of pollination, and how the cross pollination is different from self pollination. I hope you have studied and understand about today's topic in a very better way. In case of any doubts, so keep on asking your doubts. That is again very important. So we will again meet in our next video lecture. Till then, take care of yourself and keep on revising, keep on studying. Thank you.